All right, let's get right into it. You're afraid of being evaluated. You're not socially anxious. You're just performing. This whole time, you've never been socially anxious. You've just been always performing. Okay? I want to get that clear. Anxiety is a state where your body is looking for certainty because you're uncertain. And if you feel socially anxious, what that tells you is that you're looking for certainty before you express who you are. But if you don't have that certainty, what happens? You tense up, your shoulders roll forward, your body, your chest tenses up, and it closes your expression, right? Your body's not a liar. You're bracing because you're performing and you're not sure if it's safe for you to be yourself, okay? You're afraid of being evaluated, okay? Every every conversation socially in social dynamics is an evaluation to you. Let's get right into it. The evidence. What does this look like? Before a conversation, you rehearse it word for word. You script your entrance, you anticipate the response, you prepare a version of yourself that won't embarrass you. Why? Okay, let's continue. During the conversation, you're not listening, you're monitoring, watching their face for signs of boredom, judgment, or worse, indifference. After the conversation, you replay it, every word, every pause, every moment you should have said something different and didn't. Okay, let's go into this, right? Let's go one by one. Why are you rehearsing? You're looking for certainty before you enter a conversation. So rehearsing makes you feel prepared. And if you feel ready to enter into a conversation, you don't risk looking bad, right? You don't risk looking bad. So you script, you anticipate, you prepare a version of you that won't embarrass you. You're performing. Why? Why would you be performing in a social dynamic? Because you want a certain outcome, okay? And you don't feel like you could control the outcome that you want. You don't feel certain in who you are. So you put a version of yourself that feels safe, okay? During the conversation, you don't really listen to people. You're monitoring yourself. You're looking and paying attention to your tone. Did I say this correctly? Did I like fuck, I said the wrong thing. No, I shouldn't say that because it might offend them. It might offend them. And you don't really give yourself a chance to speak what's really on your mind. You self reject. You reject your own opinions, your own thoughts, your own voice. And if you do speak what's on your mind, you filter it down. You as they say, lower your tone. You don't deliver it the way it's intended to be delivered. You're monitoring, you're self-monitoring. And when you're in this, if you've been in this, and I'm sure you have, everyone has, you feel very suffocated because there's things you want to say, but you can't get yourself to say them. And you're looking at yourself and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And now you're not present during the conversation. And the other person could feel this, okay? And you're already looking for signs of boredom, judgment, or worse, indifference. You're bracing before you even walk up to start a conversation, okay? So you're self-monitoring, okay? After conversations, you replay it, every word, every pause, every moment you should have said something different and didn't. Every conversation is a verdict, okay? A verdict of the man that you're not. It's a verdict on how much you actually hold back, which is why you replay every word, you replay every pause. You ask yourself, did I really say the right thing? Did I really, say it the way I want to? Did I become too agreeable? Because that's what happens when you're performing socially. You become agreeable, you become timid, you become hesitant. You don't really assert yourself. You look for permission during dynamics, which is why you watch their face. You're looking for permission. Sometimes people process things differently, okay? Let's go to the next slide. This pattern has a name. When a stranger's hypothetical opinion of you carries more weight than your own, you're operating under external governance. Okay. Now, you know, let's be frank. Let's be frank. I put the slides together from my own experiences, but I wouldn't really say external governance. You know what I mean? What I would say is man worship. Okay, we all have a little bit of man worship in us. It's unfortunate. It's unfucking fortunate. Man worship is a condition in which your behavior is authored by an imagined audience rather than an internal standard. You don't decide how you act, you negotiate it in real time based on what you believe will be approved. Man worship, you look for other men to give you permission to be yourself, or women. You're governed by approval. Every word filtered before it leaves your mouth, ungoverned from within. No eternal standard, no anchor, just audience reaction. The cycle repeats. The mass performs. The man underneath goes unseen. The isolation deepens. What happens during this is that you'll you'll enter into social settings. Let's say run club. Let's say a bar. Let's say wherever it is that you go socialize. And because you never actually express yourself and you're performing, you're not actually known, you're not actually seen, people don't actually know who you are, so you feel lonely and you may begin to blame other people. Okay, but you're filtering yourself, and you're giving people a watered down version of you. So what happens? You begin to create a narrative within your head that says that people don't understand you, people don't know you, people look at me, and think I'm too much. Okay, if you've ever gone through any of that, you know exactly how that feels like. Oh, well, they just don't understand. Nobody understands me. Yes, because you're wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask because the right people are going to understand you and those connections do exist. But because you filter yourself, you're giving a filtered version of yourself. You don't have an internal standard either. You don't say to yourself before you even enter into conversations, I'm going to say and express what's on my mind unapologetically. This is an internal standard you have to, set for yourself. But if you have no anchor, you're just waiting for the reaction of the audience. And some men, they've had good reactions throughout their life. They were naturally socially, competent, and they had good reactions throughout their life growing up. You as a kid, if you're socially anxious, most likely, more often times than not, you were a shy kid, you were introverted. Those are words that they gave you because you may have been in environments where you were afraid to express yourself. Being yourself was too much. So what do? You put on a mask to keep yourself protected. Okay. And the thing about this, it's so suffocating because you may even know how to speak to people, you may even know how to have conversations, but you negotiate. Why? Because you're negotiating with the mask and the man underneath that goes unseen. So every conversation becomes a verdict of, I'm unseen, I'm too much, no one understands me. No, you don't understand you. Okay? The architecture underneath. This isn't about shyness, it isn't about introversion. What you're experiencing is a structured condition, a divided identity operating on two separate tracks simultaneously. The performing self, what is said, what is shown, what is allowed. The withheld self, what is thought, what is felt, what is hidden. The identity gap. The source of all exhaustion, authenticity, and social dread. The exhaustion you feel after social interactions isn't social, it's structural. You are running two identities in parallel, and the cost of maintaining the divide is what you've been calling anxiety. Yes, your nervous system doesn't know who to show up as. So now you're anxious because you're looking for certainty. And if you've been wearing the mask for a long time, the mask gives you certainty, but it also drains you because now you're entering into interactions where you're unfulfilled, where you're not getting the outcomes you want. You know where this happens a lot? Approaching women. A lot of men will cold approach women, get rejected because they're not showing up as themselves. They're so focused on trying to bag the woman that what's happening is that they're warring between who they actually want to show up as and who they're showing up as. A lot of times that's the man that's timid, watered down. Other times, the man they actually want to show up is what they actually, what they thought. Say what they thought, say what they felt, say what's actually hidden. Okay. So you're fighting two, you're fighting within, and that's actually causing the anxiety more than anything. Okay. Ah, fuck. All right. The testimony, really my testimony. I would walk around the gym wanting to speak but not being able, speaking but then showing up timid, and I would have to fight myself just to have a regular conversation. I remember these days and I say to myself, damn, I can't believe I was that socially anxious. This is not a social problem. That is a man who had become so skilled at managing perception that he had eliminated all possibility of genuine contact. The mask was performing flawlessly. The man was nowhere in the room. This is the core paradox of external governance. The better you perform, the more visible you become. This is true. Why? Because everybody could feel the gap between everybody could feel the inauthenticity. You may not be actually in consciously in your mind performing for approval, but subconsciously and somatically, that's what your body's giving out. It's like that saying is, people don't like when you're trying to get something out of them. You know what I mean? And you come off like a needy car salesman. Even if you don't want to, that's how you come out. And I'll say this to speak on my own experiences. Jeez, man, I was so socially anxious, guys, that before I couldn't go up to an employee to ask them for help. If I asked for a shoe size, I'd be like, no. Like at a Foot Locker, I would be like, no, I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask. It would make me so nervous. It would cause me to shut down. And I'd be like, nah, I'm good. In the gym, if I wanted to ask someone for weights, I couldn't ask them for weights because I was so afraid of how I was going to be perceived, because I had dealt with so much rejection and I was carrying so much shame during that time that it would show up socially. And the way I would protect myself is I started using contempt as a protective mechanism. What does that mean? I started looking down on people so that way I don't have to actually interact with them. Okay. So the mask was protecting me, but I was more isolated and lonely than I ever had become. So isolation is good. Solitude is good, but isolation where you have no one around you is not good, because this is going to block you from actually cultivating real connections. And the mask works flawlessly because the mask keeps your what identity protected. You are a real life Peter Parker and Spider-Man. But when you wear the mask, that's like Spider-Man 2, where he only lives as Spider-Man. There's no balance between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Okay. You you may even tell yourself you don't give a shit about what other people say. You're lying. You do. Your body's telling you the truth. Okay. Let's go over the architecture. The root architecture. Oh, wow. The root architecture. Internal split. Choose an acceptable self. Hide the true one. External governance. Automated rules run social interactions. The threshold. First time being fully seen felt dangerous. Okay. For me, I dealt with a lot of rejection, especially around my faith. And that is the core of who I am. I'm a man of the Lord. And because of that, I carried shame. So it would show up everywhere. When I started approaching women, I wouldn't lead with that. I would lead with what the world would tell a man to lead with, which is with lust, which is with with your flesh, which is with your looks. But the problem is that you start getting women that are attracted to the mask. And let's be frank, if you don't lead with authenticity, you're not gonna get authenticity back. So that already lets you know what type of women I was attracting. Externally, I wouldn't tell myself those things though. I wouldn't say like, oh, I care too much about what this woman says. I wouldn't say that. It would be like, why the fuck can I approach? Or like socially, why can't I just say what's on my mind? I was looking for permission. I was so afraid of the evaluation. Every conversation, every approach with a stranger, it became an evaluation to see, am I actually the man that I say I am? Am I actually a fraud? And then I would look for stories to be reaffirmed to me, right? Oh, I used to call myself, misunderstood. Nobody understands me. Okay, well, when you create connections off the mask, yes, nobody's gonna understand you. You don't actually create the depth for people to understand you, so you get rejected. When you reject yourself, you're gonna get rejected. Okay. Now the internal split is the internal war of like, why can't I just say whatever the fuck it is I want to say? You're not giving yourself permission, and you're leaning from the mask. The mask is keeping you safe, allegedly, but it's keeping you forgettable. Okay. The first time being fully seen felt dangerous for me. That was the first time I faced a lot of rejection. I faced a lot of shame, and being fully seen, I wasn't around the right people. Okay. And because of that, it caused me to become a shell of myself, wear a mask, because I didn't think people could handle me. So let's go into the next mechanism. The shift. There are no techniques, no social scripts to replace the old social scripts. Okay. External governance, identity authored by the imagined audience, permission required before expression, congruence impossible. Whenever you're performing for an audience, I don't give a fuck who you are. The pressure's gonna get to you, okay? You're not actually congruent. You're looking to win approval from others. This definitely shows up with women, y'all, and they could read this shit. Don't be fooled. Internal governance. Identity authored from within. Expression requires no prior approval. Congruence becomes the baseline. I'm at a point right now where I walk up to people and I say what's on my mind, even if they're strangers. And because I'm so relaxed, I'm moving authentically, they don't feel the need to be so guarded. When you're an initiator, when you're a leader, when you're a creator, you have to cultivate these spaces for other people to feel safe. Congruence became my baseline. Is that to say I still don't get socially anxious? Yes, of course, I still get activated. Okay. The shift is not behavioral, it is architectural. When you replace the governing mechanism, not the behavior, but the mechanism, the behavior recalibrates automatically. Congruence is not a practice, it what remains when the divide collapses. You have to choose who you want to be. So then you could express yourself the way you want to express yourself. Unapologetically, bold, confidently, without feeling like you need to perform. It is a choice. It is permission that you have to give yourself. The verdict. People have never rejected you. People have never evaluated you. They've only ever experienced a version of you that was hiding. Your own evaluation comes from people who you love. It never comes from strangers. Peace.